What's the size of your screen? You know, the one you're watching this video on right now. You probably measured it in inches because the imperial system was standardized for screen sizes. Or are you just thinking on pixels because you just love learning new stuff in 4K? You're most certainly not using the metric system just because no one does, even if it is a norm for most. But when did it become the norm? Okay, it's an easy question. You probably know that it was in revolutionary France, and if you do, you also probably know why they did it. Oh, you don't? Then welcome back to the Design Quickie, where I give you some personal insights into design for brands in a time-efficient way. And today we'll learn how to meter. Humans have standardized measurement units since the Neolithic Revolution. This one happened between 10 and 12,000 years ago. That's when we started agriculture and needed to measure plots of land and granaries, to be sure your neighbor didn't have more than you. Of course, people also needed to measure trade and social organization, like taxes, which at the time were paid in produce. Though this happened before we invented writing, we still found plenty of artifacts they used to measure stuff. And of course, we found them in the usual spots for early civilizations, like Mesopotamia, the Indus Valley, and... wait, no, this can't be right. Britain and Europe. Huh, the more you learn. Turns out the megalithic structures like Stonehenge seem to have followed a relatively strict unit of measure, which some researchers call the megalithic yard, with about 83 centimeters. But this one is not really a consensus, and other specialists claim that this was just the average length of a pace, which people of the time might have used to measure their buildings. Which tracks because most of the early measurement units were based on human anatomy and, well, body parts. The digit was the width of a finger, the palm was the width of 4 fingers, the span the width of a hang loose, the cubit was based on the distance between the elbow and the tip of the middle finger, the foot was, well, a foot. The fathom was the distance between the fingertips of a person's outstretched arms, and the step was used for long distances. By the way, the circumference of Earth was first measured in stadion, a unit that represented 600 feet in ancient Greece. And Eratosthenes, the guy that measured it, did a pretty good job, with a margin of error of less than 3%. Now, as you can imagine, people have different body sizes, which led to way too much variation in measurements, even within the same regions. So a lot of civilizations tried to standardize their units. The ancient Egyptians came up with a royal cubit. The Romans formalized the size of the foot, or pes, and built a whole system around it. The Qin dynasty unified the Chinese system, and the Inca Empire had their own standard based on the fathom, or rikra as they called it. The Caliphate of Baghdad unified and synthesized the Roman, Greek, and Persian systems into their own framework, and the medieval English crown put a lot of effort into standardizing the kingdom's measures, with physical objects and rulers. And now we're talking about the English feet, inches, and yards, which would eventually evolve to be known as the imperial system, which some people still use today for God knows what reason. But of course, England wasn't the only country with needs for measurement, and each European kingdom had their own version of the foot. And France was not different. They had their own pied du roi, or foot of the king. But they didn't have just that. In fact, pre-revolutionary France had an estimated 250,000 different measurement systems. And here I am complaining about translating between metric and imperial. But then, revolution came, the king's foot was dropped together with his head, and the new French Republic needed a new measurement system, which they decided needed to be objective and scientific. So they adopted the metric system in 1795 and made sure the entire country did the same. It was a decimal system based in multiples of 10, which made it practical and easy for both everyday life and scientific use. Or at least it would be if the implementation was better managed. The French government couldn't manufacture enough meter standards for the country's needs, and the system remained unpopular. So much so that when Napoleon came into power, he reintroduced a bunch of the old units. He still kept the metric standards, especially in government and legal work, but ridiculed the system in public. But the meter was reinstituted in 1837 by royal decree, and between 1840 and 1875 it grew in favor and adoption, eventually turning into the international unit of length. At least in most places and for most uses. Graphic design, for example, kept using the Didot system, with points, picas, and ciceros. This one was created in the 1780s and was used almost exclusively for print. It eventually got overtaken by the PostScript point, which is still the standard in our digital design apps today. Why? Well, it was just convenience and kind of already there, so software developers just kept using it. It is also based on the imperial inch, which made it easy to adapt in American-made software. But with the advent of digital design, the pixel rose in importance, though it's not a measurement of length on its own, but rather one of resolution. For production purposes, the physical size of a screen is not as relevant as its dimensions in pixels. Like how I don't care if you're watching this on your phone, your tablet, your smartwatch, or your computer screen. All that matters to me is that this is a 4K resolution video. And if you like this video, check these other ones. You might find them interesting too. Thanks for watching.